Hello, YouTube world. This is Professor VJ here. I hope you are having a great day. I wanted to come back and do a follow-up video with you. I did a video previously on college being not as popular with men as with women, and I had such an amazing response to that video. So I wanted to come back and do kind of a follow-up. There's a related topic that I wanted to tag on to that video topic because I think there is a good relationship and correlation. So again, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe my channel. I'm just starting out, so I really want to grow the channel. I really want to provide some really great content for you. So please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing. So again, the last video I talked about, please go back and review it along with my other videos as well. College is not as popular with men, and I provided all the statistics of the ratio of college students who are men versus women. And I came across this article just the other day. Again, my background is human resources. I am a professor. I teach HR related courses. I am also corporate America, business owner, on and on. So just wanted to say that quickly to put this all in context. So I've been able to see this from different vantage points, and those statistics from my experiences, I can corroborate with that because even as a professor at a major university, the ratio of male students to female typically, and I've been teaching for about 6.5 years going into my 7th year, has been on average about 1 male per 3 to 4 females. So again, the statistics that I provide, I'm not going to recap everything that I said in the last video because this would be too long, but I wanted to just piggyback on that and add, enlarge that topic, if you will. And so I have seen the difference in enrollment, males versus females. And so I wanted to also, in this video, really talk about pay equity. And I know that becomes a very tricky topic, but I think it's related in some ways and maybe not in others, but I think it's a great topic and a great conversation that we can have, a very open and honest conversation about pay equity in the workplace. It's no secret that men are paid on average more than women, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And I want to go through this article that I came across, and it kind of ties in the labor shortage. I mean, unless you've been on a rock, you understand that the Great Resignation. I talked about that in a previous video. I talked about that in my podcast, Intentional Excellence. That's my podcast. If you want to check it out, I have some great content over there as well. And so the labor shortage, the resignation, the Great Resignation, college attendance, enrollment, all those things are kind of related, and I wanted to try to tie them together here in this video. So the topic of this article, and then I'll of course give my opinion at the end. Pay equity requires vigilance, and this came from SHRM, SHRM, which is my professional organization. Those of you who are in HR know it well. Stands for Society for Human Resources Management. So this was a recently published article, and it says the labor shortage provides women with opportunities to make up lost ground. Women left the workforce in droves when schools moved to remote learning and daycare centers closed because of what happened last year. I can't say that. Even if they return to work, this stoppage could be significant and lasting setback for gender-based pay equity. Before the situation that happened last year, many metrics showed a slow but steady narrowing of difference in pay between men and women. Data from Visor Solutions Inc., for example, found that the gender pay gap in the U.S. comparing working women and men overall had narrowed by 6 cents between 2017 and 2020. That's always good news. In 2017, a typical woman earned 77 cents for every dollar earned by a typical man. In 2020, the amount was 83 cents. So that's good news. You see, I get excited about that kind of news. The measurements are from a subset of the Visier's Insights database of more than 4,000 companies. While figures on the post-lockdown pay gap aren't yet available, when women are out of the workforce for a significant period of time, they they lose opportunities to earn pay raises, gain skills, get promoted. The article goes on to discuss pay equity in a competitive labor market. Flexibility keeps women in the workplace and allows them to design their workdays around their overall life responsibilities, said Amy Mosier, Chief People Officer of HR technology firm iSolved in Charlotte, North Carolina. People began asking for continued flexibility as children returned to school and daycare. She includes work flexibility as a key element in iSolve's efforts to ensure pay equity as a rapidly growing company with a workforce of 65% female. We have been prioritizing pay equity culturally and otherwise across the workforce even before that situation happened. And so just wanted to kind of fast forward the last part of this and I'll give my commentary. Ensuring equitable pay. Researchers at the Society for Human Resources Management recently reported that employers can improve efforts to pay employees fairly by conducting pay audits and engaging with people on the front lines of implementing pay strategies. Employers that want to ensure their compensation system and hiring practices are supporting pay equity must remain vigilant. However, looking at the average pay by gender can reveal any gaps in between the two. If work included in different jobs is done in substantially similar way, the pay for those jobs should be paid in a substantially similar manner to ensure pay levels. And then it goes on to say, now this will be the last point from the article, by identifying pay levels for a benchmark job, such as senior accountant, employers can determine a salary range for that position. Senior accountants, for example, might earn somewhere between $95,000 to $108,000 per year. So I just wanted to tie in this pay equity because this is a very interesting topic to me and very exciting that the pay gap has become less wide. We're trying to narrow the pay gap. So we went from 77 cents on each dollar. So women making 77 cents for each dollar that a male makes, going now in 2020, last year, to 83 cents on each dollar. So going back to the original follow-up, men not enrolling or seeing the value of college as females. Because of what I just talked about, the inequities in pay, in my opinion, more women on average apply to go to college, to better their education, to better their position, to better position themselves, to be in line for some of the top positions at organizations. Because, things are a little, kind of askew right now because of everything that happened last year, but it will course correct in a few years once we get past this little hiccup that we're going through right now. I would say in the next, again, just my personal forecast, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a shift back to not the way it was entirely, but something recognizable than what we're seeing now with the shortages, with loosening of restrictions, loosening of qualifications in some cases. Unless you've been on a rock, you would know that almost every day on the news they're talking about the labor shortage. They're talking about companies having to close their doors, not enough workers, companies having to reduce their hours greatly, managers having to do 5 jobs instead of managing their business because their workers, there's a lack of workers. In fact, just over the weekend I saw one of the major news programs, I'm not going to say because I don't remember because I do a lot of channel surfing, but they were saying that in Seattle, Washington, they had to I think cancel classes because they didn't have enough teachers. They didn't have enough substitutes. I think they had the same problem in New York. Bus drivers, there's some districts are like paying parents to take students to school, and there companies are offering all kind of bonuses. So I think that the reason more women, one possible reason that more women are enrolling in colleges is because they want to better their position. They want to be able to get to that $1 or as close as they can to the $1 instead of the 77 cents on the dollar or the 83 cents on the dollar. For men, and the reality is a lot of jobs traditionally that were male oriented, they paid higher. I mean, let's go back and just do a little historical, look back. Traditionally, and I can even say people of my generation, I'm middle age, and there were a few positions. I guess maybe my mother's generation, I would say, not my generation, because I've had a lot more opportunities to be whatever I wanted to be, and that's the way my mother and my parents raised me. But traditionally, women could be homemakers, they could be nurses, they could be teachers, they could be social workers, they could be daycare workers, they could be, I'm just trying to think of traditional positions that you still today have a lot of women in those positions. It's getting better. It's getting much better, I will say that. But those are just an example of some of those traditional roles that women were allowed to have. So the higher paying positions were typically male dominated, and many of them still are. And some of them for various reasons, some because of tradition, some because of culture, some because they were dangerous. I mean, even just recently, were women able to go into the military and go to combat? That was unheard of for almost forever until recently, that women are now able to go on the front lines. That was almost unheard of, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So again, women are allowed to be in spaces that perhaps they were never allowed to be in. And those were the plum positions, those were the higher levels, those were, even if you look at the Fortune 500, I don't have the statistics here with me, at the higher, echelon, the CEOs of the major Fortune 500 companies, I don't know what the numbers are, but I would guess probably under 10% are women. And there are a lot of companies on that list. I don't even know the numbers. I probably should have had that, but I don't have that information readily available. But again, having worked in corporate America for many years and just knowing people, being a part of the HR organization and, networking and all those things, I would venture to say that it's less than, 10% the number of female CEOs at major corporations. So again, men in some cases don't see the need to go to college. If you are already positioned to have a high salary, I mean, of course, some positions you have to have a degree, but if your parents owned a business and you were the heir apparent, you knew that you were the successor to your dad or your granddad or your uncle, or was a family business. Let's say the Walmart, just as an example, the inheritance, the Walmart. I can't remember how many children there are, but Mr. Walton's children, they don't need a college degree. And I know he has a daughter. I think he has a son. I don't know how many, but I've seen him in some of the news reports and when they talk about Walmart earnings and that kind of stuff and things that they're doing. They do a lot in the community. They don't need a degree. If you're the heir to the Walmart fortune, why bother? And I've probably said this in previous videos. While I am a professor and I do believe in the value of education, I also believe that you have to be very wise and very prudent when it comes to education in terms of the cost of education, because the last thing that I would, or any parent or anyone, is to see a young person go to college. They have to take out a lot of student loans, which I think it's great that the government is considering forgiving some of that debt. I think that's still kind of up in the air if the president has the right to do that legally. So I think that's still under review, if I'm not mistaken. But to not be able to start their lives, not start a family, not get their own apartment, who wants to live with their parents for the rest of their lives? I was, as soon as I could get out, I was out. I mean, I was I couldn't wait to have my freedom. That's why I'm always worked, throughout school, because I always wanted to have my own independence. And when I graduated, I had my own apartment and I worked and those kind of things because I loved my independence and I had to work for it and I knew that and that's what was stressed, when I was growing up by my parents. You have to work hard, you have to have a very strong work ethic. You whatever you want, you got to go get it. No one's going to give you anything. No one owes you anything. You've got to go make it happen, and that's why I've always worked really hard and studied and did all the things that I checked all the boxes that I needed to check to get the things that I wanted. But I had to work very hard for each and every one of those accomplishments. But nonetheless, so again, if you're the heir of Mr. Walton, why get an education? Why get a college degree? That doesn't make sense. That's not a good return on your investment. If you're a business person, if you work in the business world, ROI, return on investment, it has to make sense. You want to always get the best bang for your buck. But again, for women, women are still trying to get to those higher levels. As I mentioned, we talk about the glass ceiling. And we talk about all of those barriers to women getting to the highest level in some organizations. And with every challenge, there's an opportunity. You see so many more women starting their own businesses. Entrepreneurship, especially over the last 2 years, governments, foundations, private industry, they're throwing tons of money. So if you are interested in starting a small business, this is the best time probably ever to start a small business because there's a lot of funding for startup businesses, for businesses that are struggling. The government did the CARES Act, the PPP and all that. SBA did all that funding for small businesses. So if ever thought that you wanted to start but you're afraid to, this is a great time. You could probably get some capital to start a small business. So of course keep your day job because the bills still need to be paid, and as anyone that's ever started a business, it's a lot of work, and you got to make sure your funding and your capital is there, and if you're funding it yourself, kind of a pay as you go, you want to make sure you keep your day job or night job or whatever to pay your bills, and then until you can get your business self-sustaining, until you can get some revenue. It's very hard those first couple of years in a small business. So make sure that you know you take advantage of the opportunities. I guess that's the bottom line. So let me wrap this up. So again, I just wanted to follow up on that video that I did about college not as important as for women, because of some of the reasons. There are probably tons or probably thousands of reasons, but these are just what I've come across in some of my research and also my personal opinion and my experiences in teaching students the ratio of men to women. It's always been I guess I said on average one male to every 3 to 4 females. So again, men are the head of the households. They traditionally have had jobs that paid well. Let's think about when some factories paid really well. Automotive, they were part of unions. College education wasn't required. So why am I going to go get a college education if it's not required? If I can make whatever amount you were making to sustain your family, and so what's the point of that? Education is great. It provides a certain level of opening of the mind and taking you places perhaps that you never would have been, meeting people, doing things, giving you excuse me, comfort level in certain ways. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. And if it's going to cost you a lot of money to go get an education, to get this piece of paper, when you can just as easily go to a trade school, go to a community college, go start your own business, why would you do that? Again, it boils down to dollars and cents, return on your investment. You have to be very strategic in everything that you do in life. And I'm the biggest proponent of education, but I'm also the biggest proponent of make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever decisions you're making, they make sense, and they make sense financially. Financial literacy is very important. I also have a banking background. I've done quite a few things in my life. So I do have a wealth of knowledge in the banking and financial and fraud arena as well. So just make sure whatever you do, it makes sense. And again, according to this article, I'm really happy that women are, gaining in terms of how much they're making per hour. Don't know that we would ever get to dollar for dollar just because of traditionally the structure of life and how things are structured. I'm not going to ever rule it out, but perhaps not in my generation or not in my lifetime. I don't think that I will see that. But at any rate, take care. Have a great rest of your day. And again, like and subscribe. Professor VJ signing off. Bye bye.